Good Saturday morning. What a week. Yeah, I think a lot of things were down. I think I was up in one of my commodity, one of my oil positions, and up a little bit in one of my gold stocks. But CONY and MSTY were both down, so let's jump in. To CONY, a lot of trades. Whenever they get into the week, the Friday, you're going to see sometimes synthetics rolled, but we've already rolled in both. But all the weekly calls get bought back. And when you're flat to going down, we make money on the weeklies. It's just the synthetics that hurt us, although we're doing decent in MSTY in those. Okay, let's look at CONY. So CONY was down 3.24. This is after 4 days in a row, 4 days in a row of going down. Then we bounced, and then we immediately went back. Well, it's a strange environment. I mean, halving didn't really take place till later in the day. So we've got a few weeks to see that if it's going to start working for us. And this war environment's crazy. That, and I see a lot of topping in the NASDAQ and these big AI-oriented stocks. All right, so minus 3.24 in coin. Only down 2.87 in CONY. So good job, CONY. I actually bought some more at 22.91. At the time, it was 23 something, and I just hung an order out at 22.91, and that went off obviously as it went down into the close. So I picked up a little bit more. For those of you that always ask questions or wonder about total return and about several other, how do I calculate this? I know I chat with people in Yahoo Finance, I chat with people in Reddit, and a lot of times there's questions. So I took some of the spreadsheets that I utilized and generalized them also and shared with everybody with a video today. So hopefully those will help some of you, because so many people jump in and comment about these YOMACs. Oh, well, they're just returning your capital you're buying the fund for. These dividends are a sham. You're just going to lose all your money in the underlying. Well, I think those of you that got in early like I did in MSTY, we doubled my money in the fund and I was getting a huge payout. Now I'm still ahead of the game in MSTY, but I don't like seeing it go from $44 at one point down to 29, just below 30. But that's volatility. If this stuff wasn't volatile, you wouldn't be getting 120% return in dividends. So we may still have a shot at $2. I'll talk about that with MSTY. All right, so let me jump in. So 211.01 is where coin closed. We talked about, and 22.71. So a lot of trades. All right, so let's cover. The share count went down from 2.8 million to 2.750, right? 2,750,000. So whenever they lose some shares, just like when they get them, they deploy things. But they sold just 5 contracts on this synthetic. So let's jump over to those first at our 260s. Oh, that was 5 in MSTY. I tell you, when I do these, I do CONY first, then I do MSTY, and I keep those numbers in my head. Okay, so we didn't do anything on CONY with our synthetic. We only did it. Apologize for that. So let's cover everything that was closed out and done here. So on coin, all of these 419 positions here were closed out. I think there was one that had already been closed out. But what happens when you see these numbers over here in payments? I know I'm jumping around. So this is all of our weeklies. This is our synthetics, which start out a month away, and then we progress closer and closer. So in CONY, we've made good income here, although we're underneath a lot in our new synthetic. But on our weeklies, we're just moving right along and making money. And we're doing that in Misty. It's just we took that big hit over here in Misty. All right. So let's cover in April what these did. But again, remember when we sell these naked calls, we take all that money and collect it. It's just we hope we don't lose it. So here's an example of how it all panned out, right? So on our 419, we had sold something for 302, right? We bought it back for $1 or 1.164 cents, right? So a little more than a penny and a half for something that we sold for $6. So we collected 301,000 of the 302,000 they had given us. So we had to use $820 to buy it back. All right. So on the other one, and I haven't even got to the big one, we bought it back for a nickel, right? And we sold it for $4.35, 730 of those. So that netted us 314,000 of the 317. And here's the big boy. So this one we bought back for a penny, right? There was no danger. Look at the strike prices, right? We traded it at 211. So they just waited and paid a penny, right? So it's 15,770 that they had to spend. But look at this. We basically captured 6.3 million, 6.3.5 million. And almost all of it, right? About 15,000. So it was a nice win, even though we kind of knew we were going to win that guy, right? So all the 419s happened. That's positive. Here's the new positions that we put on, right? Whenever we take off a position at the end of the week for a penny, we do that before the end of the day. That's why we have to pay a penny. So these other positions, okay, are all ones that we put on. So we wrote a 255 call. I think this one was actually written, this was written on 418, right? But now we came along and we wrote 235s and 232s, and we got, $3 and $4, right? 385 and 440. But look at the contract count. So we're up to almost 18,000, I think 17,990. But look at the cash flow. So that put in the piggy bank 75 grand there, but it gave us 7.2 million, right? So this is our current cash flow. Sorry, it's one of my Slack groups that I participate in. Pops up sometimes when people are off hours or just commenting. I love that group. We share an awful lot of stuff in there, so I stay up on everything, and I already know and watch, but what all these other people do as well. So that's a positive that we got that kind of cash flow, honestly. So you see that when we go over here to our actives, right? So we bought the big things that happened where we bought all these things back for practically nothing, kept all that cash that we knew we would, and then we wrote our new positions. Now, the important thing is how far out of the money are they? Okay, 10 and 11%. They're not really that far out of the money, but at the same time, it isn't like coin's been taking off. I sure hope it changes, but hoping and reality sometimes are two different things. So let's look. So nothing happened on the synthetics. All right. And we're still kind of ugly there, right? Because when we went down a little bit in coin from 218 to 211, it dropped the value of these, so that 79 million becomes 85 million. Well, we got plenty of time, but just know that that sets out there, because that won't affect this payout, because they're not going to do anything about that by declaration date, right? When they decide on how much they're going to pay us. We'll talk about that at the end as we get closer. So let's go over to active. So with these new positions, we're now 10 and 11%, right? And these are both big, 232 and 235, but we're down at 211, right? 300 of them are way up there, right? So a lot less. So down in CONY, down in coin, implied volatility hasn't moved a lot. I think it maybe went down a small fraction. So I just take the color out of my arrow and turn it sideways there. I didn't update the chart, but I did take a look at the chart, and the volume is still in the 9 million range. So unless we start, if we sell off and drop down 15 or 8% or something on big volume, that says that's a huge sell-off, right? Right now, we could turn and run at any point, right? But on high volume, you really want to give that a little time to settle. Okay, so enough on the trading tips. I know most of you aren't traders, and some are. Some love to, pit their wits against the markets. All right, so let's take a look on April and go out here and see what did our cash position do. I don't track the share count on this. I track it on the holdings. In MSTY, I started tracking it over here as well. Not a whole lot. We changed up 4 million, I think. Yeah, because I repeat these numbers. When I have a couple things over here, I just drag the values down, right? So there was a 4 million net change, and a lot of that we lost some, but we sold this in, oh, sorry, that's in the other fund. But that's mostly from writing the synthetics, from writing the weeklies, right? Which was like 7 million of it. And then the other is when we had to buy something. So let's take a look. Talk to you about active. Nothing really here. I'd love to see these spread a little bit over some other strikes, but they probably can't get much money if they go much higher, right? At 235 from 211, they're getting $3 and $4, right? So it's enough income at the 7 million that it works. Let's take a look at holdings before I do payments. So down 100 in this one, we're down 150,000, right? In CONY, we're down 50,000. But percentage-wise, I think we're down. Sorry, MSTY. I think MSTY's down a little bit more percentage-wise by going down 50, because this was 16,825,000. So here's everything. Again, that you can see how ugly your synthetic is, although it's May 17th. Whenever you see your negative number much bigger than your positive number, right? MSTY actually has a couple million on the positive side, right? Because we took that big, 20 million, 29 million hit. Okay, not a lot in this. Those are the same things I summarize in active. Let's take a look at, this is the most and on the holdings, so we're actually selling at a discount for 3 cents versus what the net asset value based on the share count and the total assets. All right, let's look at payments. So we stayed here. Nothing happened on our synthetics, our 1150 May 17th. We added 7.3 million, right? So we're up now to $1.31. This can help us, right? So this pretty much says if they stick to paying out with the short call income, they have other income. But right now, if this month were to end, my guess is they'd pay $1.25 to $1.35, right? So if we keep on winning on the weeklies, then that's positive, right? But we need to start working on the synthetic, but it's not going to affect our payday in early May. It's going to affect the following one, how well we do. So I would say we're good. CONY has just had an incredible, if you saw my spreadsheet on there, I've only been in CONY since the very early days of January. But CONY's been a consistent performer. If we can get another $1.50 to $1.90 out of this thing, that's terrific, right? That's why I jumped in and bought another 100 shares. Um, so let's, yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say on that. So hit me up with questions. I know some of you just don't understand, and I know this is a lot of deep options, but those of you, I get a lot more positive comments. Thank you for explaining it to me than I do the negative, but even the person that was kind of negative appreciated my nutshell, you know, what's really happening. Okay, so let's get into Misty. So Misty had a bunch of trades as well and some synthetics. So Misty was down 2.82. Look at this. Or sorry, Mister was down 2.82 and Misty was only down 1.27. So that's less than half. And sometimes people say, well, how is that? Because I always call them half smarts. The half smart guy says, well, I don't know why you buy Misty. You make a lot more money buying Mister. That's true in a very bullish market. You get no dividends, but if it has a 300% rise, we're probably going to get a 125% rise in Misty. But guess what? You're going to get a lot of synthetic income along the way. So it just depends on what you want, right? And like I said, it's easier for people that can buy 10 shares or 20 shares or something. Good luck going out there and trying to buy Mister at $1,174. I mean, you buy 1,000 shares, you spend a lot of money, right? So hundreds of thousands. So anyway, good on that. Let's cover what disappeared here, and I'll show you on the active before I go to synthetic. So on the active, we now have new positions, right? Because we want 426 positions. Whoops, I thought I took these guys down. I know I didn't change the color, but I would have sworn, but you know what? Sometime I'm not going to bother to change the color while you guys are here. I'll do that. Oh, I know I changed this. So we went sideways on implied volatility. All right. So the bulk of our stuff, these are at least updated. So we closed at 29.62 and 11.74. Okay. So the good news is we're still above our synthetic. And we're 18 and 19% out on our calls, right? This one's, so I'm hoping for a nice 10 or 15% run, and it won't even impact our weeklies, right? It'll help a lot in the synthetic if we get that. So the bad news is most of our strikes are right around the same area, but I feel pretty good that we're gonna, you know, collect the income. And let's take a look at the details of what that income is. All right, so we wrote 3 of these. What happened is we had 9 here, and then we took 5 off the table. Here with this scenario, we bought back 5 calls, and we also put 5 in the synthetic. So let me go get those first. All right, since this was, oh, I didn't update this. Sorry, guys. So we have a -5, but we actually made a little bit of money on that -5 that we sold, okay? And this guy needs to be updated. I tell you, when I think I've done it all and I haven't, I really apologize. Okay, so this one needs to go here to 28. Okay, and then I'm pretty sure these are updated. Let me, 171 and 143, yeah, those are updated. Okay, so we're 1.8 ahead, right? We were about 2.1 ahead. This number is, oh, there it is. I don't know why I said it. Apologize. Everything has been updated. So we actually sold. The reason it's a negative, normally we come in and add a synthetic. So we buy a call and sell a put, right? But this time we took 5 off the table to make up for some of the money that we paid out to the 50,000 shares that people sold in the fund, right? It went from 2.8 million to 2.75. So we actually collected 91,000 and paid 68,000, right? So that took us up slightly more on our synthetic. So we're still in a profit mode there. Let's take a look at holdings. Okay. So as we set, you can see that 1.8 million in here because this number is bigger than that number, right? And that's the long-term synthetics. The only way we make money there, those are two bullish bets. You want your, in this case, we're above 1150. So what we really want to do is collect all this money. If we close tomorrow, this 143 will go down to zero, right? So we would gain 9 million right there if all we did was stay at 1150. So Misty now went from a horrible position on its synthetic out to May 17th to a very good position. Because if the thing goes to 1400, 1500, then all of a sudden this thing moves up, right? This moves up 15, 16, 18, and this goes down to zero. So all of a sudden, it's 1600 again, and this synthetic, and we would gain 9.5 million here and probably 20 million there. So we would completely reverse that loss we had. And as long as it didn't do it all in a week or two, then we would make money on our weeklies. All right. So covered that. Let's take a look. And so these are reflected down here. So this is our new, let's cover those, our 1395 and our 1400, and let's show those here. So here's, this is what I was just getting ready to do. So we, just like everybody else, that when you have a week where things are down, you're going to close everything out cheaply, right? So we had 22 contracts here. I highlighted in yellow all the 419s that we closed. Now, we'd already been paid this money, but we kept it all, right? So we were paid 123,200. We only had to spend 110 to close it, right? 5 cents. So we collected the 123,000. Here we were paid 1,903,000, and we collected 1,902,000. We only paid 2 cents on 545, right? We had sold those for almost $35, so that's sweet, right? We knew that was coming, and then down here on our 1290s, we had to pay 2.5, okay, and we kept 32.2 of 39.2, so we had to spend 7,000. So all in all, that was really awesome. This was the one that was about the 9. So at one point we had 9 contracts here, right, that we had sold, and we'd sold them for 38.5 for 1,400. So yesterday they sold out 5 of them because they wanted to, right? They needed to take some small ones, and they took a block out of the 1400s. And then they wrote 660, right? And that's from closing out this over here, these 545. So you roll your weeklies out of one position into a new position, right? And these were way up at 1670, but remember, Mr. has been declining. So these are still 18.81% out of the money, and we've got 2 million. So you ask yourself, what do you have at stake here? Well, you got about 2.1 million, right, that you can keep because we've been paid it and it's reflected over here in payments, right? So this has gone up, all right. This number is still ugly, right? It went down a hair with those 5, but nothing to speak of. This number dropped 50,000. So this is still really ugly. But again, the funds typically Remember when we had this scenario? We had $1.99 here and we had 8.74. They came out and paid us 4.13. So they used $2 here and they took 2 of this and gave us a distribution. Everybody wanted $6 or $7. But think of how ugly it'd be now. We'd probably have a 0 if that was the case. So we've got $2.43 with one more full week and then about 4 days of the next week, right, before these things all expire. So we've got time to run this up to $3. My guess is right now they'd probably pay us $1.80 out of this, leave a little bit, and figure that it'll catch up on this big loss here. So I think we're in the dollar range now, and we could, with some luck, get to $2. Because I think if this is 3, they'll probably pay us 2. It's just a gut. It's early, but not that early. So I thought I'd give you a heads up on that. All right, guys. So weekend, I'm going to get away from markets and all that. But hope you appreciated the Excel video. Take a look at that if you didn't, because I think that can help you guys. There's a lot of formulas for calculating return when you don't have dividends. But when you have a dividend stock, you got to see, like in my case, when I did it, I'm underwater. My average price on CONY, I think, is $23.15, and it's trading at $22.71, right? So I have a $396 loss on 900 shares. But I've got a huge gain with the $5.53 on February, March, and April payouts, right? So that's why you need to know your total return. Okay, guys, have a great rest of your weekend. Again, this is not financial advice. This is for fun and education. Okay, see y'all. Bye.